David. And there were 4 attempts to kill David. And so David went to Saul's son, Jonathan. And he asked Jonathan, why is your father trying to kill me? And Jonathan didn't know anything about that because his father had purposely kept that a secret from him. And so David's response was that it's only a step between me and death. And that's what I thought about when I thought about Robert. There are a number of things that we could say about death, but I'm only going to say 2 things. Number 1, death is certain. I think we all know that if we continue to live, there's going to come a time we're going to die. We read the newspaper, they all have obituary columns in the major cities, small towns and the like. Turn on the television, the radio, there's stories about people dying, the shootings that take place in our city and the like. All that's on the news. So death is certain. We lose loved ones, we lose friends. Death is certain. But the other thing about death, it's uncertain. You don't know the time, the place, or when it's going to happen. And I think that's, in the case of Robert, that's sort of how I felt. When I think about the last time I saw Robert, I was just so shocked to hear that he had died. Because the last time I saw Robert was his usual self. He was energetic, and if you go back a few years, you might compare him to the Energizer Bunny. He's always moving fast. In fact, I heard someone say earlier how fast Robert moved. You would leave out your office and he's at the elevator.
Yes.
So quickly. But he moved very quickly. I remember him pushing a cart full of reagents down the hallway trying to get to his class, his lab and so forth. So it didn't seem like death was so close to him, only a step away. But he was in the prime of his life. But the good news is that God has given us something called memory. As long as we have memory, we can cherish Robert's memory in our hearts. All of the good times that we shared with him. I remember Robert as a dedicated teacher who enjoyed helping the students trying to reach the next level. I remember his magnetic personality, which I heard another story about that since I've been here. People just liked Robert, and he liked people, he loved people, and people just attracted to him. And he was a friend, I thought, he was a friend to everyone. He loved people, and he couldn't help but love him in return. And that's the impression I had of Robert. I didn't plan to say this, but one of the things I noticed about Robert, he always talked loud. It looked like it was trouble for him to whisper. He would whisper. So whenever Robert was around, you always knew that he was around. But when I think about Robert, I think about one of the songs of the church. It says, if I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can help somebody with a word or a song, if I can help somebody from doing wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. And I don't think Robert's living was in vain because he tried to help so many people. So let's have the prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're gathered here in this place to remember our beloved friend and colleague, Robert Leroy. We lent him to us for a little while, and then we called him out of this earthly walk of life. He served this generation, and after that, he fell on sleep. He was called out of this earthly walk of life, and we are left to mourn. We thank you that you allowed Robert to pass our way. We thank you for his life and all that he was by nature and grace to his family, community, the Xavier University family, and especially to the Department of Chemistry. We ask that you would comfort all of us who mourn his passing, and may we cherish his memory forever. We ask these blessings in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.
That, you know, if you could just sing
hospital and walk around the department as if nobody else was there. It was his domain.
And danced.
Yeah,
He also
danced.
danced. He
Yeah.
danced with me and with Candace.
And I remember giving him a hard time about his shoes and the tape on it. Multiple times I said, don't we pay you enough to buy a pair of shoes? And he would say, but they're still working. And one day he bought a pair of shoes from Walmart. He walked over and showed them to me very proudly. These are new and I didn't pay much for them. he and his duct tape. Everything was duct tape. Even his car. His car had duct tape. The right color.
Was the same way.
Right.
His car was the same way.
And that happened right after he bought the car, you know, but he had that tape on it this whole time. He did do this.
So Warren, I said the same thing last year when we met with the group, but one thing I would disagree with is Robert did whisper, "It was like this," and he those that weren't there last year might, but those that were there last year remember me telling us that it just always laughed because Monday morning it never failed when my office was on the old side of the building. And Mike, I have to tell you about this weekend. And I'm like, Robert, I don't know if I want to hear about this weekend, you know. And he would love to come to my office and talk and whisper.
Yeah. Robert,
Sit next to him at convocation.
Yes.
Get in trouble.
he and I would have those Monday conversations too. Usually in the afternoon when I would finally make it upstairs out of the paperwork to check on the organic center, and he'd be like, "Make sure no one's coming." And I'd be like in the doorway, like, I mean, there's no one in the hallway. He's like, "Okay, sit," and he'd pull down the candy, and he would share, and I would share, and then you know, I left Xavier recently-ish. And so I was working on a new project and some stuff happened, some social stuff, and I was like, I can't wait to tell Robert on Monday. And then I couldn't tell Robert on Monday. I was like, and then it was a really long couple of hours dealing with that emotion. But always, Monday morning, sharing what happened over the weekend, or on a Tuesday, guess what happened last night? Like, is it good with something that happened last night, or should I get the popcorn? But yes, his stage whisper could be heard on the first floor from his office.
He was also a huge fan of Judge Judy.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I was cleaning out his desk last year, he had in his top drawer a stack of sticky notes that he'd written quotes from Judge Judy that were appropriate for different occasions. Yeah, I saved a bunch of them. I gave some of them to different people that I thought would really appreciate it. You know,
We should get coasters made. We should get like a set of coasters made. Like
and every time he
Robert's
heard
Judge
her
Judy
say
quotes.
something that he really liked, he wrote it down. That's great. Sticky notes.
That doesn't surprise me sometimes.
Yeah.
I always knew it was final exams times when his cart barrier would appear in the hall, you know, in front of his office. Like now is when students are no longer allowed to enter my office. Now it's final exams. Now it's always the end of the semester. It's not. Is that why I did it? Yeah, maybe. That's funny. And the first semester, I guess it was last fall, when I taught Gen Chem lab in the evening, and the lab ended, and he wasn't in there. So, because every time I taught the last lab of the day, you know, he'd always come in the end to start tidying up as I was finishing up. And so it was the first time that I taught lab in the evening, and I was finishing, and it was, I needed to turn off the lights and lock the door, and it was just very strange, because I'd never turned off the lights and locked the door without him appearing at some point. That was a very strange moment.
To shoot you out of the lab and try to help him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the first time he did that to me, that was the one semester I taught, he was like,
No, but I can. No. This is my time. Go. Okay, fine.
So there's two times that really struck me fast. So he always would bring a card out at the end of the semester with have 3 or 5 items that he accumulated from the lab during the whole year. And then the semester he passed, Vladimir brought the card out. So I walked out of the lab and saw that. That was kind of fun. Yeah. Another reoccurring story. He would always help proctor final exams with delight and his diploma, just being delightful, Robert. And so now, whenever we have final exams, I was looking around, opportunity to hear it. He's my friend, and I just.
You know how many times I told them not to yell at us. I would get all these phone calls, either the student or the mother or somebody.
Road chalk.
Sometimes the student would come to my office crying, and Mr. Hugo just shouted at me in front of others, and I had to pick him and say, "Look, that's his personality. He didn't mean it." And then talk to him and say, "Don't yell at the students." And he said, "No, they don't listen." I said, "I know, but don't yell at them."
That's exactly right. But he would yell at us too, like if we leave something somewhere. I mean, he would yell via email.
Yes.
And that would be angry email from Robert. Who took this?
I know, because the beaker was not facing the correct way.
The stools were not in exactly the right position, or pushed in far enough, or too far, or...
Oh, that incident I remember. I used to take an exam in the evening, so I made sure that everything is right. Like when I know that he was very tidy. But figured it out next day. There was an email that went around that somebody was in the Gen Chem lab giving an exam.
And remember those delights gathering of the party? Like he would decorate everything, bring his own flowers, and he would be very persistent to anyone like not to help him to clean and everything.
It was his lab.
Yes. He liked decorating. He liked flowers. So that was beautiful.
This morning when I was thinking about coming here today, I was looking at my garden, and so I brought some flowers because of that. Thinking out, he was always the one who made them beautiful.
We had such nicely decorated parties for having him in a lab.
And the ginger and the ginger plums.
So nice. Wouldn't let us touch it.
Well, the origami over the gas chest. The gas chest.
And he always had candy for all the kids.
Oh, it wasn't just one container. He pulled out 2 or 3 or 4 or... Oh, just in case. I had this one too. Oh, and I had these.
Yeah, he bought this little like plastic owls and things filled with the jelly candies for Lucy and Ion and
Maddie
for Maddie and for all the latest generation of kids. Even when he hadn't seen them for a while, he'd still buy it whenever he was at Hong Kong Market or something, and like after holidays, like, oh, can you pick up something for Lucy?
He's definitely very patient with all the kids.
Yes.
And I remember when my kids were in middle school, they were starting to learn Chinese. And that seems to me like a very difficult language to speak if you're just learning it. And he was very patient with them, would always try to speak it with them, and they try their best. And he was always so complimentary of them. Whether, who knows what they were saying, if it was correct or not, but he was always so complimentary. Really nice.
He got Lucy to speak to him a little bit. She was not very fond of Mandarin or very good at it. He was very encouraging with the few things he got her to say. She remembers when Mr. Robert came to you.
It was always fun when the students got to see that part of him too, because they would come to the center very afraid of him. And I'd be like, this is a lab thing. I don't even know what he's asking for. Let's go. Like, walk him up to his office and be like, hey, buddy. they need help with this question on this thing, and he'd sit them down and they'd come back and he was so helpful and he was so nice. I'm like, yeah, because you asked him for help, and you had an actual question, like, and seeing, like, getting them to see that side of him that we saw all the time, not just him in front of the classroom trying to manage kittens on fire. It was always a fun experiment.
You know, Richie, you're probably wise not to try to help his lab students because you could have helped him with all the correct stuff, but it wouldn't be the Robert way. Right. It had to be the Robert way.
I mean, I sat in his office once or twice. We're like, okay, I've seen this problem like 8 times today, and I don't know how to do it. What is going on? Oh, wait, in the lab, like, oh, I'm missing the top contact. And he'd get up and that little chalkboard that there wasn't much board left of the chalkboard, I don't think. And he'd do it and he'd draw it. And I'm like, that makes sense. I still can't teach it, but I'm glad someone knows. I'll just keep sending them to you. Oh yeah, yes, that's fine. Okay.
I loved his label printing. When he'd come into 301 and be like, ladies and gentlemen, do not use the printer. Because he was about to print labels, so he would need to put the label paper in the printer, but he had to print it from over at his office. So he would come in the 301, ladies and gentlemen, do not use the printer. And then he would run back to his office to print, and he would have to keep running back and forth, so it was always kind of funny. So burst in, and he would know, don't print anything.
That's the way he was going to students as well.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the class. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get started. Yes, and he was actually able to maintain discipline just perfect. With his commander, strong voice, very convincing. You know, sometimes he's making an angry look, but he's not angry, obviously. But that was very convincing to students.
I would never forget that.
Oh yeah. Section, walking around.
I mean,
When I do the summer
that was like a
program,
delight of the morning, I would say, and he would.
Y'all might have the privilege of being in Mr. Wheeler's lab this fall, which was his cue to
Can't tell that.
introduce his personality to them. And he'd always say something like this: "You can be in my lab if you wear your goggles."
Yeah, that's horrible. Yeah.
He was always just such a good colleague. If I ever needed anything, he would immediately put down whatever he was doing and walk right down. Whatever chemical, whatever he needed. Okay. And off you go.
When he helped with pre-registration, he had to put all his signs. A through D goes here. You go down there like 7 points, everything's set up.
I love it for our chemicals and stuff in the lab because you can have to figure it out. You feel like I'm going to do a demo in class. He's like, I'll get it for you. I'll take care of it.
I don't know which one, but I'm in her back patio area for her house.
I was thinking back to the time of Ida when I was in the building and saw the mess of the GChem lab, just thinking abroad in his students he wouldn't care what they said about don't go in the building.
Well, he didn't. After we were locked down, he was still in the building. He got in trouble for it. Oh. He was just sneaky.
Yeah, I had to go in one of the early days. I'd left technology or something in my office, and I heard him, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go upstairs and see what's going on. Like, so I'm wandering around, just with my arm load of stuff, just in his office, music blasting. I'm like, you're not supposed to be here. Neither are you. It's like, actually, they know I'm here. Well, they can kick me out. It's fine. Okay. And then quickly ran away. He definitely marched his own drummer.
Juan Day was talking to me the other day, and just sharing with me that even though he's been gone for a whole year, some people come and go from work or whatever, and they go and you don't notice it anymore. But he's been gone for a year, and they still feel it.
Yeah.
Still really feel that.
I remember me thinking so many times, so good we have Robert. I would never, God help that he would not retire. I don't know what he would do. Instead, nothing to do.
Yeah, I was planning on retiring, with him about the same time.
Well, I told him he was talking too.
I was counting on him to be around, doing all of this different stuff. Never have to worry about it. I didn't see him much during the pandemic, but when I saw him in the summer of 2020, it was already I noticed that I was holding but that was really we just got permission to come back in May, and I saw him around and he was doing great. I think that was God. And then the most part of the reason is we didn't see him. We see it progressively from on a daily basis. We found out in this apartment the drugs that he was working at the last weeks is for diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. And I looked it up, and that, that's kind of 50% true. It's a very rapidly progressing cancer that is true. And 75% live way beyond 5 years. So we just didn't do anything.
Very stressed and losing weight. I put it down to just the stress of trying to have the students in the class, have the students out. I know that November, was complaining of pain, I had to go to the doctor, and it wasn't until after the break where he said he slept and then he said this and showed me where did accumulated lymph nodes.
We couldn't put on his hands. So
finally we went to the doctor. It was really hard to get it out.
I saw him the week before he passed. I come in to get some stuff. And I couldn't help thinking when I got the news from Candace, I was like, if we hadn't had COVID, we'd all saw him every day. Like, this could have gone so much differently. It's really miserable how heavily the pandemic impacted this situation specifically. Like, maybe he still would have passed and it was his time, but we didn't see each other. Nobody was around. Just the camera hides so much. And we talked about it. I stayed far away because I didn't want to expose him while he was on chemo or whatever he was taking. And he was miserable. We talked about what he had. And I was like, actually has a really good survival rate. I've known people who get it. Take your pills, see your doctor, stop being stubborn. And I'll bring you stuff, whatever. I'll drive downtown. I don't like going downtown, but for Robert I would. And then I got a call a couple of days later, and I was like, oh.
One of the good things is me and Abba did those videos, and so we have a permanent record if you want some entertainment. Watch out for the slam videos.
Especially the wave.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I mean, seriously, I watched it and I was just in tears laughing. I'm like, this is just so wrong.
I was bored with
How to weigh, how to use the balance, and the marbles.
I put marbles
They're on the
it's great. Look at me like that.
And he has his lab coat on backwards, like to wear.
Special thing.
with the collars up.
Yes, yes.
Put a shirt outside.
And a sweater usually had
Oh, yeah.
acid.
For the Christmas sweater, when we had the ugly Christmas sweater contest, he had the sweater vest and he filled the holes with all these different dollar store Christmas decorations. and little ring tassels and stuff. This is my ugly Christmas sweater.
And remember how he was like chewing his tongue for Mardi Gras? An unforgettable picture of Vlad as a girl and him as a writer.
Yes, that was his go-to
Really,
costume.
19th century
For the protector,
Yeah,
for sure.
anytime he had to dress up, that was his costume.
Except when we were Hogwarts, we were the professors at Hogwarts, characters, he dressed up as Professor Flitwick. And I was teaching him how to do the swish and flick as part of the movie, and he was like, we're in the quant lab. He's like, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I was like, swish and flick and flick. And he dramatized it, and it was so awesome. Like you were taking on this character very well. Always dancing and singing. Making us laugh.
That's right. That was my laugh of it. When I tell him that word in Chinese, and he would laugh the whole, like whole way everything.
Yeah, he was always waiting for us to come in the morning. For those of us on the old side of the building, he always pass by. Stop. Everyone. You have your coffee in.
One thing we learned last year in class was how well beloved he was in the neighborhood that he lived in. Also, we actually last June we did a small ceremony in his neighborhood. The first neighbors took his so he took care of the whole area. He took care of the streets.